Welcome to the Sandwich Generation podcast, a resource for adults balancing the dual responsibilities of raising children and caring for aging parents. Whether you're helping your parents downsize, explore real estate options, navigating caregiving, or looking for practical advice to help your family thrive, this is the place for you. Join us as we bring you expert insights, heartfelt stories, and actionable items to support you and your family within this unique generation. Hi, ladies.
Hello.
Hi. Thanks for bearing with me through my technical issues.
Yeah, we said this is like high quality production here. I mean, we have come a long way. I feel like there's a pretty big learning curve, and we've learned a lot about podcasting, and people seem to be complimentary about what we're covering. Julie, you thought that we are covering some good topics, right?
Yeah, I do. I think it's great information.
How about we just kind of jump right in today? We have Julie Strauss joining us from Partners in Aging, partnersinaging.com if you want to go check out their website. But Julie is a fiduciary and works for them, or works with that company, agency. I don't know what you guys like to call it, but so we just thought we'd let you kind of explain what is a fiduciary and what is your role with Partners in Aging.
So a fiduciary in the broad sense, it is someone who is legally and ethically required to act in a person's best interest. And you might have heard the term fiduciary before. A lot of different professions are categorized as a fiduciary. For instance, an attorney is a fiduciary. They represent a client in legal matters. A financial advisor is where I had always thought about as a fiduciary. They manage a person's account and investments, and obviously are required to act in the client's best interest. In my role, it's a little different. I am serving actually as the person, and I have to serve in that person's best interest. So
the person as in the client, right?
The client, yes. So most of these roles I am appointed by the person. A couple are court appointed though. So
like if somebody wasn't able to, they were mentally incapacitated to the point where they maybe couldn't sign documents or take care of themselves, that sort of thing.
Yes. Yeah. So really the first thing, if you're going to an attorney and you're doing some estate planning, you could have someone, you would create a document called the durable power of attorney, and you would appoint someone to act on your behalf and handle all of your assets, your financial and your property matters. Healthcare representative is another document that you would sign, and in that role, you handle the medical decisions at the doctor's office or at the hospital or with home care for a person. If you're completely incapacitated and you haven't created any of those documents with an attorney, then you need to have someone appointed by the court to handle that function. And in that case, that becomes a guardian role. So that is the guardian is the highest restriction.
Do you work with courts for that in that role, or is that beyond?
I do.
Okay. Somebody wants to have that put in place. They could have like an adult child in that role, but if they didn't have that person, like the durable power of attorney or the healthcare representative, that's where they could appoint someone like you, correct? I just want to make sure I'm understanding completely.
Yes. So traditionally, that power of attorney and that healthcare representative position, that has been an adult child or a friend. We're seeing that there are people who they don't have children, or their children are unable to serve. Maybe their children live across the United States from them. And so it's difficult to serve as a durable power of attorney or healthcare representative when you're not geographically near the person. They make it difficult they want you to come in and see your face if you're going to take over an account and make decisions on their behalf.
For sure.
There's some people who they have some drama in their lives and they don't feel like the children are able to handle it, or some people, they have children who are perfectly capable of handling it, but their estates may be too complex and they just feel like
help
someone else. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. We were just talking before we started recording about a gentleman that I met a couple weeks ago where he does have adult children, but I feel like they're not serving his best interest. And once we met with him, I don't know if adult child overheard or what, but he's not answering the phone now. And so you mentioned drama. I kind of thought about that. You know, there's all sorts of family dynamics that are out there, right? I'm sure you've seen a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have. And I've dealt with some wonderfully beautiful families who, you know, if I didn't have a professional relationship with them, I would be friends with them. It's just, you know, their estates are a little complex and they've put a professional fiduciary in place. I've also dealt with a couple of families that they were very difficult and weren't doing the best thing for their loved one. And so those are hard situations.
Sure. You were going to ask, Sara.
So I was just, you were saying some of them are complex. And so I was just wondering, like, what are some of those challenges that seniors or their loved ones might face when they're trying to figure out like the finances and all that stuff? Like, what are some of those things that would warrant them reaching out to someone like you?
Well, so some situations that could be a little complex, they might have a couple of different properties. They might have several investment accounts. They might not have, the children might not have the time to handle the situation.
If you could describe the ideal client for you, that you're like, you know, that was really fun. I was able to help a family and this is my favorite type of client.
So I would say my favorite type of client is someone who I can be with from the beginning of the process through the end. Like I would be named at the attorney's office as the power of attorney, or in the case of a trust, the trustee. I can work with that client and get a list of all of the information that they have, all the accounts that they have. I would have a relationship with their financial advisor, their tax professional, and just make sure that I have that opportunity to make sure that there's a beneficiary on every account. I think that's so important.
Yeah, that makes sense because you're not coming in the middle of something trying to figure out what somebody else did. Those are some of our favorite clients too, the ones who let us handle everything because we're not having to piece together a puzzle of a project. So that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I like to have that relationship with the client, and you end up having a relationship with the beneficiaries, whether that be the spouse, the children. I'm sure that you all see this too in your work. You spend so much time with them, and you know a lot about everything. Like when you're handling their finances, everything they've worked so hard for, you get to know them, and I do like having that complete cycle of, you know, you hate to see someone pass away, but the intention is that you're going to follow through and settle out the accounts the way that their estate plan listed, and then pay to their beneficiaries and just settle out that. And that can be a years-long process,
right.
Several years generally.
Did you have a question, Sara? Because I have one, but I don't want to, if you've got one on the tip of your tongue, I don't want to steal your thunder.
No, go ahead.
What is the best way to know? Like when would someone know, oh my gosh, this is too much for us. We don't know what we're doing. We need to find somebody to help us. And what would trigger, because everybody just doesn't go around talking about fiduciaries and guardians all the time. I mean, we do because we're in the industry, but John and Mary Smith down the road, they're aging, and maybe they're telling their kids about their assets and where everything is, and maybe they realize it's too complicated for them. I mean, what's something that would trigger, we need to hire somebody like you?
Well, as someone is going through the later stages of their lives and they're looking at their estate planning, which I should say, I don't think it's ever too early to do estate planning. I've done it. I did it about 10 years ago, actually. But if someone's looking at that and they're sitting with their attorney and they're saying, who's going to serve as your power of attorney when you're incapacitated? And if they don't have someone that they feel like they can have served for them, that's when someone would recommend a fiduciary. When you are, if you're an adult child and you're looking at your parents and they are struggling a little bit with paying their bills, or you've seen them on the holiday if you don't live close, and they are having trouble managing their house, that's when if there's no estate planning in place and you don't feel like you are equipped to do that, then you might start thinking about who could help me with this.
What about, I'm thinking about like maybe a family that has multiple children and they're uncomfortable determining like this one is going to be in charge, right? Because it can create lots of drama with the others, right?
Yeah.
Would that be somebody, I mean, do you have people like they'd rather have a professional fiduciary versus assign one of their kids and make the others mad?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that happens a lot. I have a couple of cases that's happened with. And, sometimes you've got someone in your family, maybe all of your family does something in the financial world, and you don't have anybody who is very good with medical things. Maybe someone in your family can handle the durable power of attorney role if they have time. But you need to say, I need to find someone who can help me with the healthcare power of attorney. Or if there's several siblings and you feel like they may bicker or they have their own families. I mean, that's what this podcast is about. You're managing your own family and your career.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think that people underestimate the time that is needed to properly and effectively handle their parents' estate.
I agree.
So, because it can be a lot. And if they're in a house and you need to get them moved to another house or to senior living, and you've got to clean that out, and they have several different accounts and they've got insurance policies, and maybe they missed filing their taxes 1 or 2 years.
Yeah.
And then they have medical needs on top of that. And you're trying to juggle all of that with, oh, hi, I'm still working. I work 30 hours a week. And
I gotta go pick up little Johnny and Susie at choir practice.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah. And they're in travel swimming. And so half the summer in winter, I'm sitting in a pool. So there's the families that I serve for, some of them the people don't have families, but some of them have very supportive families, but they're just very busy. And so it's another profession that can step in and help in that instance.
I was looking on your website. You actually have a team of people. What are all the services, not just a fiduciary, but what else do you offer at Partners in Aging?
Well, so at Partners in Aging, we work with a financial advisor. The other companies we will refer out to, and you can our clients our clients use their own financial advisors. If they don't have
No.
one, I can recommend Curtis, who we work with, can recommend other financial advisors. I think that on that role, that's someone that you need to interview with and see who you mesh with, because I think a financial advisor is one of the most important partners that you can have in your life, because you have to be comfortable with that person and to give them information that is so important in your life. You have to be comfortable with them to tell them everything and work with them and meet with them at least annually to update anything. Other professionals that we work with that I think are really important for people to have when they are doing asset planning and financial planning, your tax professional. Everyone has to file taxes. You can file taxes on your own, but a lot of people will use a professional, especially if they have some complicated assets. Real estate agent, the downsizing, your elder law attorney, I think is very important to have, because with your estate planning documents, those documents need to be updated, well, at least reviewed periodically. And anytime you have a life change, if you remarry, if you have a death in the family, if there are more children. I had a friend come to me recently and say, I need to update my will. It hasn't been looked at in about 15 years since my spouse died. And since that time, have been marriages, like my grandchildren have been married. There's great grandchildren. I need to update this. So I think an attorney is very important to have, not on retainer, but you need to look at those documents periodically and maybe regularly to make sure that everything is how you want it to be. Back to the financial advisor, and then just your bank accounts that aren't held with the advisor. It is so important to have beneficiaries updated on every account. I had an instance with one of my clients where the company held 401k was transferred to a new company, and that beneficiary that was in place did not transfer to the new account. And we had to go through some additional steps to pay out the account because the beneficiary was not listed. And it's fine. Everything worked out fine. I think it's also important to have a Medicare specialist that you can talk to, because those plans change and you need to make sure that your coverage is adequate for your Medicare and your supplemental plan. Let's see, other roles. Care coordinator, I think, is something that is important if you have some complex medical needs. So that's something that a lot of people don't think about. But when you look at seniors now, they're living longer, and they are surviving through their illnesses. And so then you look at these seniors who have a couple of different long-term illnesses, and so that can be a little confusing to the families. You've got several different doctors, you've got several different medications. It's another professional that you might want to have in your corner.
As far as like the financial piece of things, like if you start working with someone and they to move like from their home to a, let's say independent living, assisted living, something like that, are you able to, from a financial standpoint, like how do you determine what they can afford and if they have enough assets to be able to do that?
So there's a couple of different things that you can look at there. Depending on, you would need to have a full picture of their assets, and you need to look at it as a holistic process. I think it's really important for people to keep their options open and, consult with the elder law attorney and see what the options are there, because the process there is you would line out your assets and they would, give you some options. It's important also to have that financial advisor where they can look at, okay, here's your portfolio, here are the assets that you have. We might be able to do this, and they can make a plan and say, you might have 5 years of assets. It depends on each individual situation.
Okay. That makes sense. What about main piece of advice that you would give to an adult child that's trying to figure out how to manage their parents' estate, or just your main piece of advice in general for anybody that's thinking about using a fiduciary?
So I think my main piece of advice to adult children is try to have those conversations with your parents early.
Yeah.
And some parents will be receptive to that and some won't. But I think it is so helpful. It makes the process so much easier if you have a list of the accounts and the policies. And so you're not just digging through the file cabinet or changing the address on the mail and waiting for something to come in the mail to see, okay, what all do they have? If you have that list, if you've had that talk with your parents beforehand, so you can see, what do they have? What am I working with here? Because when a parent becomes incapacitated, especially if you are dealing with your own job and your children, all the emotions are hitting. There's so much to do at once. Double, triple that stress if you've got a couple of siblings who are trying to manage and delegate to each other and just split up all the work. I think I might have said this earlier. I think people underestimate how long it takes to manage an estate, and to not only manage an estate, but if reconfigure assets, if that's the route you're going. It takes a long time to do that. Takes lots of steps. Like something that should be really easy, like going to a bank and just getting yourself added to the account, can sometimes be real easy, and sometimes it has to go up to legal and they have to look at it and, well, this needs to be re-signed. I think it is important for people to employ professionals if you need them. I mean, a lot of people can do this on their own. It's not rocket science. It just takes time. And, when my kids were babies, you would hear people being like, oh, I didn't have any epidural during labor. Great. No one gets a prize for doing something this way. In this, give yourself some grace. If you need some help, if you are faltering a little bit, employ some professionals. You don't have to clean out that house by yourself, right? So they'll hire you. You don't have to handle your parents. You don't have to handle your parents' assets. You and your sister can go and be with your parents and be daughters, be their kids, and spend that time with them. And then let me sit here and have the headache of going to the bank and getting things reconfigured. I think that it's also important to note that while you are trying to handle your own finances and juggle your life, juggle your finances, while you're caring for your parents' estate, don't lose sight of your financial goals that you have and what you need to do for you and your family. It is never too early to do estate planning. It's never too early to meet with a financial advisor. It's also never too late to do those two things. You can meet with a financial advisor for your parents and see if there's things that can be moved around. I've heard people say, I don't have enough money. I don't have enough assets to see a financial planner. You do. Maybe not this financial planner, but maybe this financial planner, because there's different levels of planners.
Sure.
And there's a lot of things that they can do, and they might give you some tips on, if you just change this and you change this, it can go to this. So I think it's critical to talk to a financial advisor. I think it's critical to talk to an attorney and get all that in line. And then as things change in your life, divorce, remarriage, look at it again and see, what you need to do to change, because your situation changes in your life and that changes how you want things to be handled.
Yeah. Would you recommend like every year?
I meet with my advisor annually. I need to update my estate planning documents, but I think if nothing changes in your life, you don't need to meet with the attorney on an annual basis. But look at your paperwork, make sure you know where it is. I would keep it electronically, and make sure that you still are fine with what is going on. You never know. All families are different, but you need to keep an eye on some of that. And I wouldn't recommend for people just, I'm going to change, but just keep an eye on things and
sure.
I mean, because these roles are very important, and there is a lot of responsibility with these roles. It is, when you're durable power of attorney for someone, you can sell their house, you can close bank accounts, you write checks, you write your name, Julie Strauss, power of attorney for Sara McCord. And if you are not doing the right thing, if you're not acting ethically, you have to be very responsible to be effective in that role. And it's something that you need to think about, as who is going to serve on your behalf.
Yeah, that's good. So in terms of your team, so we've talked about a lot of professionals coming into to play here. So in terms of, a team, so I'm not married. My children are not at the age to where they could handle things. They could handle my estate. So who all would I need on my team, just as a case study here?
So you need, you run a business. So I think that you need a tax advisor. You need someone to do your taxes. You need a financial advisor. I think you need to have an estate plan, because you need to have, are you going to have continuation with your business? What's going to happen with your kids? If you were in an accident tomorrow, who's responsible for your children? How are their accounts set up? If you have underage children, you need a trust. You need an attorney. Your house, may need to be sold depending on who's going to be with your kids. So you need a good real estate professional. You'll need someone to clean out that house, because you don't want your underage kids to have to do that. It's draining, no matter who's doing it. Let's see. You need, that's probably at your age, that's probably what you need.
And how old do you think I am? No, I'm kidding. We don't have to talk about my age. Excuse me. So, okay. So getting a team together, basically, and people can start anywhere, right? We could, I could reach out to you directly and tell you my circumstance, and you would be able to connect me with the people that I need. Or, it just so happens I do have an attorney and I do have a trust. I could reach out to him and say, hey, I want to add this to my team or whatever. And he would. So my point is, in this industry, if we're not the right person to help, we certainly know good people. In fact, I was just meeting with somebody earlier today before this podcast who is looking for a senior community. I was able to refer them to someone who we use in the industry, we know and trust, and that will help them find the right senior community for their needs. So the people in this industry are pretty well connected. Find one person that's trustworthy and let them know what you need, right? And build your team out from there, I think, is the point.
Yeah, and that's one of the nice things about living in a big city. There are a lot of different home care companies. If you don't mesh with one, if you're having trouble with
Yeah.
one, we'll find another for you. If you are not gelling with your attorney, I know 4, 5, 6. I'll give you names. Um, if you think your tax professional did uh, a little bit of a job last year, I can give you some other names. There's not, I've got my favorites of all of these that I work with, but if you've gone through all of them, I have a network to reach out to and say, hey, I'm looking for XYZ. Can you give me a couple of names? And I mean, I've done that with um, different professions. That's one of the good things about this.
Yeah. Well, how can people contact you or secure your services?
People can email me at j.ray@partnersinaging.com. My website is www.partnersinaging.com, and my phone number is 317-903-3172. And we're on Facebook and Instagram. It's under Partners in Aging.
Partners in Aging. Okay. Thank you so much for taking your time this afternoon to talk to us, Julie, and educate our audience.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed my time, and hopefully the information was helpful.
Yeah, I think so. We covered a lot of good info.